Yes, it is a remote meeting, so for the housekeeping, I would like to invite Mr. Mason.
Hello, I'm the clerk for the committee meeting today. Good morning. This is a reminder that the meeting will be recorded and will appear on the Council's website soon after. Members of the subcommittee should leave their cameras on but switch off their microphones until they wish to speak. Officers should switch their microphones and cameras off until the convener brings you in to speak. If members or officers wish to address the committee, please press raise your hand icon, which is located on the Teams toolbar, but remember to switch it off after the convener brings you in. I will now start the recording and undertake a roll call of the members in attendance. Now, I'm aware that Councillor Reynolds is absent from today, and Councillor Malik, the Vice Convener for the Licensing Committee, will chair the meeting today. So the next person is Councillor Bell.
Present, good morning.
Councillor Delaney.
Present.
Councillor Malik obviously is here.
Thank you.
And Councillor Radley.
Present.
Thank you. I'll now hand over to Councillor Malik to chair the meeting.
Thanks very much, Mark. Agenda item 1.1, determination of urgent business, there is none. 2.1, declaration of interest. No. Okay, and 3.1, request for capacity exemption from SAR Global Limited. This application is in two parts. First one is in relation to capacity, and the second one is in relation to external part of the building to be used for the external entertainment. So first one, if I can invite the applicant, and if you can tell me your name or agent and tell us why would you like for a capacity exemption.
Good morning, Convener Councillor Malik, and good morning, Your Honours. My name is Stephen McGowan. I am a solicitor from TLT. I'm here today to represent the applicant in this case. I'm joined today by my clients who are out there as well. We have Darren Margarach, who is the owner of the venue, and we also have Rory Mason and Scott Forrest, who are the two event directors. So they are also here with me this morning. Your Honours, as you've heard there from the convener, the request comes before you this morning, I think, really in two parts, and I'll try to deal with this as quickly as I can. The application calls before you today in the unusual circumstances, I think, of seeking this special sanction that, as a result of the Scottish Government policy in relation to live events, requires this additional step for approval where an event of above 2,000 people requires this special permission. Of course, the event we're speaking about this morning, Your Honours, Cultivate 2021, is an event which we have requested 2,500 people. Now, Your Honours will probably know from the papers, we have provided a significant amount of detail in relation to the event, and I know from the agenda that Your Honours have sight of the event management plan, which is a significant document of some pages, as well as a number of supplementary statements which we've made via your officers for the purposes of the hearing. So, Your Honours, if you're with me, instead of going through all of those documents and statements verbatim, if I just give you a brief overview and some headlines, that might be helpful. Of course, I'll be happy to take any specific questions, but hopefully that's a sensible approach.
Yeah, you can go ahead first, and then I will give opportunity to members and they can ask questions.
Thank you, Councillor Malik. So, Your Honours, if I can just maybe introduce the event, first of all, just to give you a bit of context, Cultivate is a live dance music event. It's not a new event for Aberdeen nor this venue. If I have my maths correct, this will be the fifth Cultivate dance music event in this venue on the Esplanade. The first one was back in March 2018. There were 3 events in 2019, and there was a connected event called Rare, which was in early 2020 before the first lockdown. So this is an application and an applicant which is well known to the committee from being licensed for these various previous similar events. They are an operator who are extremely well versed at delivering this type of event at this exact premises and location, and also for the same demographic who have attended these events in the past. I think it's also hopefully of some comfort to Your Honours that There is no public objections to this event, nor are there any objections from any other authorities, from the police, or any adverse comment in general, which hopefully shows the partnership approach which my clients have taken to work with all of those various officials to get this application before Your Honours this morning. Now, in relation to this specific request for the capacity, as I say, this comes about because of this additional layer of requirements which the Scottish Government have introduced, and there is a series of criteria which relates to how Your Honours assess this, and that is in the grid which is amongst your papers, and you can see that a number of responses have been given. So again, Your Honours, I'm not going to read that out verbatim. If I just pick out one or two key points that I think are important from our perspective, Your Honours will be well aware that the whole underlying ethos of this process is in relation to coronavirus, and to assess and to satisfy yourself that an event of 2,500 people in this case is safe from that perspective. So again, without reading out everything in the grid that you've been provided with, I think if I highlight the very last box, which is the question about COVID security and COVID guidance, you will see that the answers we provided say that this event has a full specific COVID risk assessment. It's in the event management plan. It's part 8 of the event management plan that Your Honours have before you. And it's been completed by a gentleman called Dave Ross. Now, that might not be a name that Your Honours recognise, but I think it's a really important part of the bona fides of the event risk assessment and strategy. Mr. Ross is probably Scotland's leading expert in COVID safety at large events. You can see from the notes that you have in this grid some of the other events which Mr. Ross has overseen as an independent contractor, including the Euros football fan zone, which he did for Glasgow City Council, Transmit, which was Scotland's largest live music festival this year, 50,000 odd people, and various other festivals, Playground, which is in the East Renfrewshire Council area, and a number of others across the whole of Scotland. So what you have there is a bespoke COVID risk assessment, which has been delivered by someone who is arguable as the leading expert in this area for these types of events. And I hope that gives Your Honours real comfort. In addition to that, Your Honours, the EHO has recommended this event as a COVID safe event, having reviewed all of this and reviewed the various documents and submissions which we've made to get us to this hearing this morning. I think it is of real comfort that the Environmental Health Department has reached that view, and hopefully Your Honours will take that into consideration. As I say, Your Honours, there is a hell of a lot of other detail here, but if I chose just to focus on that because really the purpose of this assessment of the additional capacity is really as a result of COVID. So if I just briefly finish on this initial submission, what I would say is it would have been very simple for this event to simply go in at 2,000, Your Honours. You know, we could have just said, well, we'll restrict it to 2,000, and that would have avoided this whole process and avoided that additional criteria. So I think, in actual fact, it's testament to my client's professional approach that they are confident in their abilities to run this event safely at the capacity of 2,500. They've not sought to fly under the radar. They've been very clear that they think 2,500 is the correct capacity for this particular event. And in fact, they welcome the scrutiny that the process and the committee can bring to bear on the application. It suits them to have that scrutiny, Your Honours. It enables them to say that to their customers, to the people who are buying tickets for the event, it enables them to say
Sorry, Mr. McGowan, you're breaking up. Can you please?
Well as to Aberdeen in general, that we have an event here which has been.
Sorry, Mr. McGowan, I think you're breaking up. You have some issue with your internet.
Bear with me one moment. Hopefully it will return. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's fine now. Yeah, perfect. Go ahead now.
The trials, and thank you, convener. The trials and tribulations of virtual hearings. The sooner we get back to face-to-face, the better for me.
Yeah.
But moving swiftly on, I was just finishing this initial submission by saying there, convener, that we welcome the scrutiny that this process brings, because it instills confidence in the people who wish to attend the event that it has been assessed properly. So we could have gone for 2,000 and sailed under the radar, but we didn't. We applied for what we thought was the right number for us, which is 2,500. The theoretical capacity, the theoretical maximum capacity is actually 3,600. But we didn't want that. We wanted a number that we felt was comfortable and safe based on our own risk assessments. And that number was 2,500. So, Your Honours, if I pause there, I do have a number of other things that I could say about the application generally. And I know that you want to hear from me about the outside area, but I think you're going to take that as a separate agenda point. So perhaps I should now pause. Hopefully I've given you the overview that you need, but you know that I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Mr. McGovern. I can start with my first question. Previously, you have done 4 events very successfully, and these were before COVID-19. And now you just told us that the person who carried out this risk assessment, he's playing a leading role in Scotland in relation to COVID-19, and he's done for all of these big events as well. And on page 27, your overview is in relation to health and safety training, and your all paid staff get training. How often you get refresher, and these are aware of this COVID-19, all of the rule and regulation that your staff?
So in terms of the ongoing training, I think there's 2 elements to that, Councillor Malik. The first element is that every single member of staff who is involved in this event is fully trained on COVID compliance. That obviously is something which happens in the run-up to the event. So any person, whether it's Scott and Rory, who are the principal event directors, all the way down to people who act as cleaners, as bar staff, every single person is trained on COVID compliance. In terms of the refresher element, which I think you were looking for some information on, this is a 2-day event. There is obviously an ongoing learning which happens on an event, and I think it is true to say that when new staff may come on to an event director or manager who briefs the staff on an ongoing basis, so there's always a briefing for new staff coming in, and that will certainly be the case for the morning of day 2 of the event, where again would be a morning briefing where all the staff would be spoken to about how things went on day 1. Is there anything we can do better? So there is an ongoing delivery of training, and I think that's covered off in the risk assessment, which, as I'm sure Councillor Malik you will appreciate, is a living, breathing document. You know, these things are not set in stone; they're always progressing. They're always trying to be better.
Thanks very much, Mr. McGovern. If I can bring in Mr. Munro first, and then Councillor Delaney, and then Councillor Bell, and after Councillor Dudley.
Yeah, thanks, convener. I was just going to say, we obviously have representatives from environmental health with us. I wonder if it might be more helpful to hear from them with regards to capacity area before then we can do questions to all parties, because then obviously you'll have both sides of the position with regards the capacity issue.
Thanks very much, Mr. Munro, for correction. I thought we can bring environmental health in the second part of the application, but no, it's fine. Yes, yes. First, environmental health, please.
Thanks, convener. Hazel Stevenson, Environmental Health Manager, Aberdeen City Council. Yeah, we're just, unless there's any specific questions, correct, we have reviewed the documentation and have had suitable responses to any questions or gaps we had on it, and we are comfortable that it is suitable for the event that's happening. I've also had contact from Grampian Health Board, CPHM, who have no objections to the event going ahead in the capacity that it is. As the guidance from the Scottish Government says, they should be consulted in this as well. So given all that, we are comfortable. Thanks, Convener, if that answers your question.
Great, thanks very much, Hazel. Now, Councillor Delaney, please.
Thank you, Convener. My question is going to sound a bit daft, but I just want to make things clear in my head. You're saying the total capacity is 3630, and only 2,500 tickets will be sold. What I'm trying to establish is this the total amount of individuals who would be attending the event? I'll explain a bit more. If you had, say, for instance, how could I say, you had guests attending or anything like that, I'm just trying to get a total feel of what the total number is going to be. Is 2,500 the cap, or is it 2,500 paid tickets? And you may, for instance, have some unpaid guests. I'm just trying to get an idea how many people will be attending. Thank you.
Yes, no, I think I see your point, Councillor. I'm happy to give you comfort on that. The maximum number that we're asking for is 2,500. So that is it. That is the maximum number. That would be a condition of the licence that was granted if your honours are with us in this event. So the overall number of people who would actually attend the event is, or would be, if you're with us, 2,500 people.
Thank you very much. That's most appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Delaney, and Councillor Bell, please.
Thank you, Convener. I have a couple of questions. So on page 22 of the submission, there's a listing of the event directors, and the event directors are listed as Mr. Forrest and Mr. Masson. Right. However, we've got the event directors here, Mr. Forrest and Mr. Margach. So you're both event directors, aren't you? Did we not get told that?
Yes, no, I think you've perhaps just misheard me there, Councillor Bell. The two event directors who are on the call this morning are Scott Forrest and Rory Mason. The third gentleman is Mr. Margach. He's the owner of the venue, and he's here in that capacity.
Oh, I see. So we only have one event director here.
No, we have two. You have two event directors. The sole two event directors, Mr. Forrest and Mr. Mason.
No. Councillor Bell is asking question that at the moment with the Microsoft Team call is only Scott Forrest with us, not Rory Mason.
Mr. Mason's there as well. I can see him on my screen.
Can you?
Rory, would you like to unmute and say hello?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So you are.
On top of us. Yeah. Rory is sitting in front
Hello,
of us. Yeah.
hello everyone.
Okay, I misunderstood that. How stupid of me.
Not everyone can fit on the screen at the same time, but I am here and listening.
Okay, jolly good. I can see you. Yes, I can't touch it. Right, thanks. I have another question. So lateral flow testing. So you say on page 55 of your submission that all attendees are required to conduct personal health screening and conduct a lateral flow test, and that they need to present evidence of a negative result upon entry. And you also say that a photo of the test next to a valid HOLO ID will be encouraged rather than producing the physical lateral flow test. So a HOLO ID, could you explain that, please?
Yes, happy to do that, Councillor Bell. The ability to produce a digital version of the lateral flow outcome is something which has become the accepted norm in attendance of large events across Scotland. So all the other festivals that I've mentioned to you have had this rule in place, which is that you only get in if you can present a lateral flow test showing that you're negative in terms of COVID-19. This is the NHS system that if you have done a lateral flow test yourself, Councillor Bell, I'm sure you'll be familiar with, where you can you swab your nose, the back of your throat, and then you put the liquid into the wee sort of cartridge, and then there's a QR code, the wee digital square that is on that cartridge, and then you upload that using your mobile phone to the NHS website, and that produces the document essentially that shows you that you have a record that you've passed that particular test on that particular cartridge, and it sets the date and time so that it can see when the test was taken and the time that it was uploaded. Now, in terms of customers going to the event, if I was going along to the event, I would have had to have passed one of these tests. The Polo reference is merely the sort of digital brand of the format which you can use when you're presenting your mobile phone. Practically speaking, it's far easier to present the digital version of the certificate than an actual bit of paper. You know, the bits of paper can go missing. They're easier to forge, and it's become the accepted norm across the festival and large events industry that the production of the digital version of a recent lateral flow test is the way to do this, and that's what we are proposing. I hope that helps.
Sure, and that is a Holo ID, is it?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bell. Councillor Radley, please.
Thank you, convener. That was part of my question as well. But what happens to patrons, customers, I don't know what you want to call them, if they don't produce the lateral flow device test? Will they not get into the event?
No. If you don't produce a positive, I was going to say the word positive there, but I think the correct terminology would be negative. You can see what I'm saying, Councillor Radley. If you don't produce the lateral flow test showing that you are free of the virus, you don't get in. It's as simple as that.
Perfect. And will there be sort of procedures in place to refund at that point? You know, is that something you've thought about?
I'm not sure if there's a specific process. I would probably have to refer to either Rory or Scott to answer that particular point. But what I will say to you is that what I have seen is that the terms and conditions of the ticket are very clear on this point. The terms and conditions on all over the website and on the actual tickets, the tickets when they're issued are very clear that you don't get in unless you produce one of these documents. So all of the people who are hoping to attend the event are under absolutely no illusion about that. I hope that helps again, Councillor Radley.
No, that helps. It just is sort of like an incentive to make sure that they do it. That's what I was thinking of. My second question, on page 57, it says all patrons will be contacted with the house rules. How will they be contacted with the house rules if maybe they don't have access to email or whatever? Will that be available to them in paper copy when they buy their ticket? You know, that sort of, how is that information going to get out there?
So I think every single ticket has been purchased online, and every single person who has bought a ticket has been sent an email to the email address that they gave when they purchased the ticket. That provides them with the house rules, the full set of legal terms and conditions. But in addition to that, we will have information displayed throughout the premises. So there will be signage on entry, there will be signage within the premises as well. Signage you would expect to see, Councillor Radley, in relation to behaviours and exits and where to go if you're feeling unwell. All of that will definitely be in place.
Perfect, thank you.
Great, thanks very much. Councillor Delaney, is your hand still up? Is a new question or Lexi hand?
Apologies, I must be better to put my hand down. Sorry.
Great. Okay, thanks very much. Any more questions, members? No? So, would you like to move anything else? I go ahead. Okay, I would like to move to grant the exemption for 2,500. If I can get seconders.
I'm happy to second.
Great. Anybody else? Anything else like to move? Unanimous decision. Thanks very much, members. First part of the application is done. Now the second part of the application, probation and external part of the building. Mr. McGowan, again to yourself now.
Yes, thank you, convener. If I just go directly into this point, your honours have a lot of detail. So, you know, normally in a situation like this, you might give a bit of context and, you know, dates and times and whatnot. But unless you really need that from me, I'll just take it as read that you've got that detail, and I'll just go directly into this point about the terrace. Just for the avoidance of doubt, your honours, what we're talking about here is the raised outdoor space, which is on the first floor of this building. It's bound on 3 sides by the building itself, and then there's the side which is open out over obviously overlooking the sea. I'm sure your honours are familiar with the building and can therefore hopefully picture the space, but I just wanted to mention that just in case 1 or 2 members haven't been passed recently. So the Environmental Health have asked for a number of conditions to be agreed. I should also say, as have the police and as have other departments within the council, we have accepted every single condition which has been asked of us by all of the parties. This one particular condition is the one that we're seeking Your Honour's indulgence on. Now, the wording that's been proposed says there should be no amplified music in the, I'm paraphrasing, there should be no amplified music in the outdoor drinking area. Now, my client's view on that, Your Honours, and why we're seeking your indulgence is that we do feel genuinely that that condition is not necessary. In fact, we were quite surprised to see it proposed. There's no residential property nearby in relation to this area. It does face out onto the sea over the Esplanade. All of the businesses along that space will be closed when this event is happening in the night time and wouldn't be bothered by any noise. In addition, Your Honours, you've already heard from me the previous events of this exact nature in this exact premises, which have happened, and they were all allowed to have a outdoor noise in this area, and we're not aware that that led to any complaints. So we were quite surprised to see it. Our position genuinely is that we think it is acceptable to have music and entertainment in that space, just as it always has been. What we would say to give Your Honour some comfort on this is that although the licence is till 11, we're happy to close that area off a bit earlier, so 10:30. So we'd be happy that if Your Honours are with us on this, we would agree to a condition that there would be no music or entertainment, etc., in that space after 10:30, which we think is reasonable, and we hope you think so too, Your Honours. It's a reasonable sort of compromise given the specific nature of this location. And if we're saying that there would be nothing there after 10:30 at night, that seems to me to be sensible and reasonable. I think that Your Honours would hopefully be comforted by the fact that we have accepted every single other condition which has been put to us. So this one request we're making, this single leniency that we're asking you for, is for justifiable and proportionate reasons in our view. As I say, all of the other conditions are granted. We have used this area in the past, as far as I know, without complaint. We also have a full dispersal policy in place, Your Honours, which has been submitted via licensing standards, and although that may link more directly to the alcohol licence, which I know is not part of Your Honours' gift this morning, but I just wanted to mention to you, to give you additional comfort, that from that perspective there is a full dispersal policy. So in relation to closing this particular area early, that will factor into this, and there would be no difficulty in us being able to do that and ensuring that any customers who were in the area at 10 o'clock or 10:15 would be, ushered inwards, and the area would be cleared with no music occurring after 10:30. So, Your Honours, we're asking for your indulgence on that, but we do so on an evidential basis based on our previous experience, and on the basis that we're hoping that you consider this request reasonable with this 10:30 cut off for the music. Happy to take questions.
Great, thanks very much. If I can bring in Mrs. Stevenson from Environmental Health.
Hi, thank you, convener. Yes. What I would add is and you will be aware, having looked at many public entertainment licenses over the last while, it is actually our standard condition that there's no amplified music on outside areas. And also as well, although you're saying there's no residential properties directly next to it, there are flats not that far away. And having said that, weather conditions can actually affect how noise travels and how loud it appears within those residential properties, sorry. And also as well, given that the event is over 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, we feel that it is reasonable that although the terraced area is available to be used until, I think the condition says 11 p.m, we would still stand by the condition that there's no amplified music or microphones or any such noise in the outside area. Thank you, convener. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks very much, Mrs. Stevenson. Members, any question to Mr. McGowan or Mrs. Stevens? Councillor Delaney.
Thank you, convener. Just clarification more than anything else. The applicant's solicitor was saying that there's been no previous condition with regard to the use of that area, whereas Mrs. Stevenson was saying that it's standard practice that there's to be no amplified music in outdoor areas. There's a bit of a conflict between the two statements. If we could maybe have some clarification, thank you.
First, Mr. McGowan, please. Would you answer?
Yeah, it's maybe for the clerk or perhaps Mr. Monroe to deal with that question rather than myself, Councillor Malik, in the first instance. But I am happy to come back in on this point. And Mr. Forrest, I think, would like to speak as well. But I think perhaps it should be for the clerk or Mr. Monroe to answer that question rather than me.
Okay, if I can bring in legal first, Mr. Monroe, please.
Once I finish playing with the mute button, I don't have access to the previous one, so I can't comment. And I have to say, in my experience, I'm not sure it's a standard condition for public entertainment licenses. I think it's quite standard on alcohol licenses under the occasional license process. I can't say whether it's a standard condition with regards to public entertainment licenses, but what I would say on that regard is that even if it is a standard condition that is put on all, that does not mean that it must be put on all. They all have to be determined in their own merits. So obviously the bits and pieces that the applicant's agent has mentioned is things that the committee should absolutely be taking into account with regards to the location, the type of event and what have you. So that's not a direct answer, I'm afraid, but it's as good as I've got.
Okay, Mr. Forrest, please. You are still, no, you have to unmute yourself. We cannot hear you. Thanks.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Hi, good to meet you all. Scott Forrest, one of the event directors. Yeah, it was just to try and calm fears with regards to this outdoor space, and because it is a very isolated space on the first level. And I appreciate, it's the, flats are, I mean, the nearest flats are on the boulevard, and I mean, they must be a good kind of 0.5 of a mile away or something, because there's certainly no residential properties anywhere nearby. And previously we have put on 5 events utilizing that space with amplified music, and there's never been one complaint raised in the past. And we're quite, and we want to make sure this event happens and it's part of Aberdeen going forward. And the last thing we want to do is have anyone, complain and try and have the event shut down. And the second point as well is it's part of our plan to have people safely distributed across the venue, that we utilize that space. And so we have 4 stages with different entertainment on it. And therefore, it's been part of our essential plan from the beginning to ensure there's dispersal across the venue and people aren't all gathering in one area. So it's quite a critical aspect of our plan. And so, yeah, I just want to raise that, because if we lose this stage, it's gonna make people gather in other areas, and we'll need to kind of rejig things, and I think, but I personally can't see the problem with it, and we haven't had any problems with the past with regards to businesses and local residents. So hopefully, hopefully that answers any questions, or certainly gives my feelings towards this aspect.
No, it's fine. Thanks very much, Mr. Forrest. So you're saying that distance from your venue to the Beach Boulevard housing state is about just less than a mile, yeah?
Well, I'm sort of stabbing in the dark with that, but it is a good distance away, And
you had no You had no complaint previously?
None whatsoever, you know, in our previous events there, so.
Okay, fine, thanks very much. Councillor Ardley, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. I think Mr. McGowan said there are also some objections from the police. Would it be possible to hear if they have anything further to add?
Councillor, I said there were no objections from the police.
No objections, that's fine then.
No, Councillor Ardley, if there was objection from the police and the police representative would be with us, but I don't think they are with us. So
sorry, they are, Convener. Just to confirm, Sergeant Flett is with us in case you do have any questions for the police.
Oh, Sergeant Flett, I cannot see. I can see only Anne Marie, Stephen Ederson, Mark Mason. Okay, right.
Would it be possible, Convener,
yes,
just get an overview of the police's thoughts on
yeah.
this? Thank you.
Go ahead then. Yeah. Yes, Sergeant Flett, please. Sorry, I did not see you on my screen. You were hiding somewhere.
Yeah, I like to hide. So, is there a specific question, Councillor Radley? Because obviously the police letter does contain a number of requests for conditions, which I understand the applicant has accepted. Was your question more in relation to potential noise?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've not seen the police letter. It wasn't included in our pack. So it's just about the noise.
Okay. Well, to be frank, I would have expected the outdoor area to be subject to the conditions of the alcohol licence. And if that outdoor area, it would ordinarily have a condition of no amplified music. If it doesn't have that condition, one, I'm surprised, and two, I would assume that is through grandfather rights, i.e. that was the situation some years ago. Perhaps Mr. Munro can clarify what the status of that is. The distance from the premises to the block of flats is somewhat less than Mr. Forrest has guessed. And there have been complaints in the past, not recent past and longer term, not specifically about this event, but from noise emanating from entertainment in that area. The person who knows a lot more about that is Mrs. Stevenson, who's on the call, because most of those complaints were dealt with or directed initially to the local authority. If you perhaps want to extract a bit more about that.
Councillor Radley?
That would be helpful to hear from Ms. Stevenson about noise complaints, if that's possible, Convener.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson, please.
Thanks, Convener.
Sorry, yes, go on.
Yes. Thanks. So I can just really give a very generalist overview of the noise complaints we've dealt with. As Sergeant Flett is correct, in the long term and also recently, there have been noise complaints from other entertainment amplified music within that area. And those have been investigated and informal resolve come to by working with the premises that the complaints were directed at. We also recently received a further couple of complaints from different residents in the same vicinity, so it has not just been from one resident. Again, these have been investigated as best we can during COVID time. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the officers have not been able to carry out investigations as thoroughly as they normally would, due to not being able to go into people's houses. But yes, again, with informal conversations with the premises involved, we have come to agreement with that. If I may, could just add further, my concern about the area being used for amplified music is that it's a raised area and therefore taking into consideration the loudness of the music, the bass, again, weather conditions which can push the noise towards, depending on what it may be, towards the properties. Because it's raised as well, yeah, it could very well affect them directly, taking the sound towards them away from any ambient noise from traffic, etc. I hope that answers some more of your questions, convener.
Thanks very much, Mrs. Stevenson. Any more questions, Councillor Ardley?
Yeah, just one, if that's okay. Convener, are the noise complaints specifically about late night music, or are they about music in general? I don't know if you can maybe give us a bit more information on that, Miss Stevenson.
I would say a mixture of all of the above, depending on times when said premises were operating with the amplified music outside.
Okay, so there are some concerns about late night music in the area.
I wouldn't say, well, it depends what you mean by late night, but yes, up till generally we, you know, when the premises are open, maybe 10 o'clock or something. Again, it's a very generalist overview here, so unfortunately I'm not being very specific about times and whatnot, but yes, I would say in a whole, ranging of the time that the premises would be operating with the amplified music. Although I have concerns about this event having the amplified music outside, what I would say is, again, the complaints we have received, we have managed to deal with informally and come to a resolution there. But I do have concerns this is a one-off event, be it over Saturday and Sunday, in that we wouldn't be given that grace to work with the premises to resolve any matter at that time. Thank you. Okay, can I ask a question, Mrs. Stevenson, in relation to this events previously, according to Mr. Forrest, no complaint at all, especially for their events. Can you please confirm this is true? Unfortunately, at this time, I can't confirm whether any of the complaints were directed to those specific events. Mm-hmm. I certainly can confirm that there has been complaints about that. Yeah, overall complaint from the area. Anyway, okay, thanks very much. First, Mr. Mason, and then.
Convener, I think it's appropriate for me to speak first before anyone else. I think that as the agent, I should probably deal with a number of those issues. I suspect that my response will capture some of the points my clients would be seeking to make. If it's okay with you, perhaps I should respond first. I can see so many hands. Okay, if there's two of your client happy, and go ahead then. Thank you, Convener. There's a number of points that have been raised out of that conversation, and if I try to deal with them as best I can, let me say this. First of all, this application is on its own merits. This application is based on the information that you have before you, which does include the fact that there have been no noise complaints about this specific event on all the previous occasions it has been run. Mm-hmm. It is not appropriate to lump in other complaints of a general non-specific nature as a potential reason to impose a condition on this event. That's not a lawful way to proceed, Convener, and I say that with all due respect. The legal tests which are involved are here. It's incumbent upon me to remind everyone, I think, of what they are, because that's my job, I suppose, to best represent my client. If there are general non-specific noise complaints which are not attributed to this premises or this event, then they should have no weight attached to them in your deliberations, Convener, and your honours. What you're being asked to do today is to look at this specific application for this specific event. And what I would say to you is that, whilst I'm giving you a bit of a lawyer's answer there, one of the conditions that we've agreed to is a condition proposed by Environmental Health that we will have effective noise controls procedures to prevent music breakout from the premises. We've also agreed a separate condition that we would have an effective complaints procedure for dealing with any noise complaints should they arise. So those are two conditions which have been proposed, which we've accepted, and I again give that undertaking just now. The fact that the event is only for 2 days is not a negative, it's a positive. Your honours are not being asked to grant a licence on a permanent basis. It is 2 days and 2 days alone. That is not a negative in my submission.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we've given you the undertaking that the use of this space in terms of the entertainment noise, etc., would cease by 10:30, which I think is very reasonable in the circumstances. The specific location is relevant, and whilst I understand some of the points which my friend from Environmental Health has made, the bottom line is that Your Honours, in making a decision, have to make that decision based on probative evidence. You can't make a decision based on speculation. And with respect, it sounds to me like there is an element of speculation involved in what's being said. So I say that, again, with all due respect, and with the wider comfort that my clients and I have been hoping to give to Your Honours, that we are, if Your Honours are with us on this, that the space will be used appropriately. You know, I think my clients have heard very well some of the concerns and the comments which have been raised, and they will hear that and take that on board 100%. So that's a few observations from me. I hope that captures many of the points which Scott, Rory or Dan may have wished to raise, but if I've missed something, they'll no doubt re-raise their hand and add their own submission. Thank you for that interjection. I do appreciate it.
No, thanks very much, Mr. McGowan. That's why I asked question that any complaint in relation to this event, but that's fine. Councillor Bell, please.
Thank you, Convener. So I'm trying to be as pragmatic here as I can be, so please bear with me a wee bit. Can I ask, please, where the complaints have actually come from? Is it from the Virtue Apartments? Is it Genya Properties? You know, where have the complaints come from?
Obviously, I can't tell you a specific address, but I can tell you it's from the block of flats that, sorry, I don't know the street name or what you were referring to, but the modern type flats on the corner where the Pelican junction, the junction is, and all the complaints have came from that block of residence, if that helps any.
Okay, not really, because where I'm coming from is this direction. So there are properties around in O'Flate. I'm looking at Google Maps now. So Virtue Apartments are due west. Okay, due west. Now I've just checked the weather forecast for Saturday and Sunday, and the weather forecast says, doesn't say still air, it says there's a 40% probability of rain on Saturday and 50% probability on Sunday. It says the wind will be coming from the south at 12 miles an hour. Okay, so if these properties are due west, they're not going to get any noise. Now, that's me trying to be as pragmatic as possible.
Yes, Councillor, I appreciate that. However, when Environmental Health are assessing these applications and applying conditions on it, we don't necessarily have the comfort of looking at the weather conditions at the time. That is just an aside as something else that can affect how the noise travels and how it impacts on residential properties, and it is our duty to try as much as we can to proactively protect residents within the area from any disturbance within their homes. Again, I think that's a bit of a vague answer again, but hopefully you can see why we have attached that condition there.
Okay, I understand.
And that is, can I just cut, the flats are on the that I'm talking about, the complaints emanating from are on the Beach Boulevard Road, is that correct?
Beach Boulevard.
The corner of Links Road.
Oh. Okay, I can't see them on my Google Maps.
They're about 5 or 6 high, 6 maybe, 5.
Corner of Links Road, Beach Boulevard. No, I don't see them. I think the direction is actually really relevant to this, though, and the weather forecast is relevant.
Okay, thanks very much. Mr. Masson, Rory Masson.
Hello everyone, Rory, Event Director here. I believe I can provide some context maybe of where these kind of complaints before. I think Ms. Stevenson is speaking about the Banner Mill flats, which are on Google Maps. They're on the sort of crossroads of where the Beach Boulevard are. It's the big sort of square flats there. There was another event that ran for many years called Minival Theme Park, and this is at Cadona's. They basically had around 1,000 people there, and it ran from I think 2016 to just before lockdown. They had a sound system, a big sound system, and that was in the Cadona's amusement park where the sort of ship is and the Crazy Golf. And that sound system is actually pointing at Banner Mill Flats. I know from the organizer there that they had a number of complaints for their event from Banner Mill Flats because of that. For us, we're completely on the other side of the building, and where the terrace is just faces out to the sea. So any speakers that we have are going to be facing into that building, and the music's only going to be able to go out to sea. You understand the weather can affect that, but I believe that these complaints have come from another event which had a completely different circumstance that is way more likely to affect those residents than us. So I hope that kind of alleviates some sort of fears.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Marsden for clarity. Darren, please.
I think I would just like to echo what Rory has said there as well, and on an ongoing basis as well, that there is amplified music within that kind of theme park, if you like, and we can hear that from our offices, and I would accept that probably is quite loud. But I would say that in isolation, as managing director of the group, I have never had any complaints from that site about noise, and that would hit my desk because that's what I would deal with. So I can honestly say that. The upstairs space has never really been used. We took over the building mid-2018. That bar was only used in lockdown, the external area as a source of income. And of course, we weren't allowed to use amplified music at that point. So the only time that bar has been used is as an event space. And that would be the only time that there would have been music on that terrace. So I would say it's very unlikely, and especially unlikely that I don't know about these complaints, that there has been any complaints in our reign of that building.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Ardley, please.
Thank you, convener. It's more probably for Sandy, Mr. Munro than anyone else. Can we get a copy of the conditions just so I can see the wording of the conditions? They're not in our pack. Would that be possible?
Yeah, we should be able to dig those out. Is it the one that's in dispute, or is it the all the conditions?
I mean, either. All would be helpful, but if it's easier, just this specific condition, if that's
possible. If you want to carry on the discussion just now, convener, I'll get those arranged and we'll try and share those just as soon as we can for you.
Okay. Mr. Marsden, I can see your hand still up. Okay, thanks. Darren, would you like to come in again? Okay.
Convener, if I can make one suggestion just to help, I've got the conditions in front of me on my screen, and if you have the ability to let me share screen, which you would need to give me, I can put it up and everyone can see these conditions right now because I've got them on my notes, if that's helpful.
Mark Mason, can we do it? Mark,
yeah, I'll try and organise that. Okay, I think Mr. McGowan, you can now share your screen. If
thank you. Let's have a go at this. Hopefully this works.
Please don't bring up anything that shouldn't come on your screen.
No, indeed, it's legal.
So hopefully your honours can now see if you're still there. You should be able to see a note. This is just my submissions that I drafted. So I copied the conditions into this just to make sure I could see them as well. So I think what you're looking at there is my mouse cursor, and what I'll do is highlight this list of 4 conditions. These are the conditions which the Environmental Health Officer proposed.
Okay.
You can see that the first of these, which I'm now highlighting, is the one that we're debating at the minute. The second one essentially becomes redundant if Your Honours are with me in my submission that the use of the outdoor area for live music would cease at 10:30, because that's what that condition would become.
Yeah.
And we are happy to accept conditions 3 and 4. Councillor Radley, it may also be helpful for you to see the police conditions, because I think you mentioned earlier that you hadn't seen them. So if I scroll down very slightly, you can see the 5 conditions which the police have proposed, and we have accepted all 5 of those conditions.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Mr. McGowan. Councillor Radley, are you happy now?
If you give me 2 minutes to read them, yes, please. Thanks. Thank you, Convener. That's fine.
Okay. Thanks very much. Members, any more questions? No? Okay, before I give you opportunity to move something, can I ask a question myself to Sandy? Sandy, if we grant the application, the applicant has to apply separate for the occasional license.
Yes, they already have, and actually, I was going to come in on this, and Mr. McGowan might actually be able to confirm something for me here. I actually think that we've just had a look at it. My understanding is the public entertainment license should be for the ground floor only, because that's the unlicensed part of the premises. My understanding is the first floor of the premises has a premises license, and therefore wouldn't need the public entertainment license. So if the terrace is on the first floor, it's covered by the terms of the premises license. And it should just be the ground floor that the public entertainment license is required for.
Okay, thanks very much. That's good.
Stephen, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say about that, Sandy, is that what we are saying is that although your comment there is that we essentially don't need a license for the terrace, what we are saying is that we want to operate this event correctly, and we're prepared to accept a condition that we wouldn't use entertainment in the terraced area after 10:30. Now, I know technically speaking, that's a slight oddity, because we're asking you to agree a condition which relates to an area that's technically not needed. But I think we're making that submission to the committee for good reason, because we want to give the committee the comfort that is what we want to do, and for the reasons that we want to do it. So I suppose what I would say is, if for technical reasons the proposal that I am suggesting, the 10:30 cut-off, if for technical reasons that can't be a condition on the public entertainment licence, you have my client's undertaking to the committee that is what they will do, and therefore I would hope that my client's word and their undertaking to Your Honours today that is what they will do would be sufficient.
Okay, so that maybe partly answers your own question, Convener, in terms of that if you decided not to, then technically it would be governed by the terms of their premises licence, and my understanding is that does not have a restriction on the outdoor area. So I guess from what Mr. McGowan is saying, that this is almost like a belt and braces type thing to make sure that is in place to provide some kind of restriction on that area.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Councillor Radley.
Thank you, Convener, and apologies for another sort of question. Slightly, again, probably for Mr. Munro, if we were to approve this today, and it is just for the one-off event, it wouldn't be for multiple events, and if there was another event of this type, they would come back to committee for approval.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, right, member, up to you now. No, nobody's moving anything. I would like to move to grant the application. Can I get seconder?
I'd be happy to second that, Convener.
No more proposals, so unanimous again?
Yes.
Great. Thanks very much for all of
Sorry,
you.
convener. Sorry,
Yeah.
just for the sake of clarity. So it's not. So it's to grant the application without that with the amended condition in effect. So without the condition on external music in the external area, but that has to be ceased by 10:30.
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody happy? So thanks very much for attending this meeting, and I can conclude the meeting now.
Thank you, convener. I suppose I should just say on behalf of my clients, thank you very much for your assessment of the application today. One other thing I'd just like to say before I finish, which I should have said in my initial submissions, my clients did ask me to say on record that they were very grateful for all the efforts that a lot of the council officials have put in behind the scenes. Maybe I didn't want to say that in advance to try to curry some sort of favour, but it is the case that a number of different officers, including police and council officers, have spent a lot of time with my clients over this to get it right and make sure everyone is safe and it is a good event. So they did say to me, and if we were in the Mariscal College just now, I'm sure they would kick me under the table to say, would you please put on record that we're grateful for the assistance of the various services. So I'm now doing so. Thank you, convener.
Thanks very much, Mr. McGovern. All of the council officer, Police Scotland, NHS Grampian, they are doing brilliant job for the public. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.